Shalom, shalom, and welcome to another video on the Genesis 49's page. Today, today's topic, as you can see on the screen, Black Jews, the Jews are black, Black Jews 2016. We're going to get into the scholarship and show, without a shadow of doubt, and prove to the laity that the so-called Black Americans are of Judean descent. They are the Jews. The Jews are a people of color. When you look throughout the antiquity and the historicity of our people, you can clearly see that we are derived from a people of a dark hue, or what you would call quote unquote black. Now, we're using black as a descriptive or adjective element. We're not using it as a national identifier because we know, according to the scriptures and according to the historical records, that all nations were once black. So, dark skin doesn't denote our nationality, but our nationality, we come from the Israelites. Okay, so that's with that. Let's commence. All right, I got visto there, meaning seen. Why I've used that as the topic or the subject or the header is because these people that I'm about to bring up actually seen Jews and actually wrote down how they looked and, more importantly, their skin tone, their skin color. Because today we're presented with a pale Caucasian phenotype as the Jew, which is not historically accurate and it's not true. The real Jews were black, quote unquote, black men. Now, we have William Breton. This was his impressions on 300 Jews at the synagogue in Amsterdam in the 1600s. And it says, Jewish men are most black. So he looked at the polity of the Jews at that synagogue and he wrote down the description of how they were. He said they are most black. They're dark-skinned people. And to the right, I have an Ethiopian imagery of a Christ-like figure, and Jews surrounded him, right? So let's keep going. Again, another eyewitness of the Jews, and he wrote down a description of how they looked. He looked at their phenotype, and he wrote down how they look according to the color or the hue of their skin. This is Scottish minister Robert Kirk. They were all black men, indistinct in their reasonings as gypsies. Reference to the Jews of a synagogue at London, January 1690. Okay? And you can see I also provided some more black imagery of black Jews to the right. These were done in the medieval times, by the way. Again, another eyewitness of Jews. This is Franco's Maximilian Missions. His quote says, vulgar error that the Jews are all black is only true of the Portuguese Jews. The swarthiness of their complexion is entailed upon their whole race, even in northern regions. Meaning even in North Europe, you find these Jews that are dark-skinned. But the Jews who are originally of Germany, I have seen Prague, are not blacker than the rest of their countrymen. I mean, they're not as dark, but they're still dark. And that's from A New Voyage to Italy. That's his book by Franco's Maximilian Missions. Right. We provide these sources so the people at home that's watching and viewing this can actually go and write this stuff down and read and also teach the people around them so we can spread the message. And to the right I have a black depiction of Christ, also a medieval art. Let's keep going. It says, the Jews, I knew you to be a Jew, for you Jews have a peculiar color of face, different from the form and figure of other men, which thing have often filled me with admiration. For you are black and uncomely, and not white as other men. And this is from Paul Isaiah 1655. And the book is The Messiah of the Christians and the Jews, held forth in a discourse by Paul Isaiah. This is what is found in his book about what? The color of the Jews. And I apologize for the syntax right there on the misspelling of peculiar. But nonetheless, you see that the quote is referring to the skin color of the Jews, and they were dark or black. Okay, early depiction of Christ to the right. That actually goes back to, like, I think, the 3rd century. You know, when you look at the oldest depictions of Christ, which was a Jew, he was a Jew. He springs from Judah, right? They're all black. The earliest depictions are black. You don't get start getting white images of white images of Christ until around the 6th and 7th century. And we know that's when you had the Khazarian influence, which I'll be doing a video about that, the Edomite history within the Byzantine Empire, because you had Edomite kings that came and ruled around the 7th, 8th century. One in the 4th century, then again they came and reappeared in the 7th, 8th, 9th century. So you need to know that history, especially when you're dealing with artwork. So, but the earliest images go back to him being depicted as a black man, nonetheless. Next slide. This is from Babylon from Timbuktu by Rudolph Windsor, page 116. A very, very good book. If anybody wants to know the history throughout the Moorish history, the Portuguese history, Sao Tome. This book covers a vast amount of antiquity. It's a good book to start you on your journey and your education of Israelite history. I recommend it be one of the first books you get, and enriching yourself with this knowledge and wisdom. So we're going to go into the quote that says, expelled from Spain and Portugal were scattered throughout the Mediterranean coast, talking about the Jews. It is estimated that over 100,000 Jews departed from Spain and Portugal during the persecution and the expulsion. Some of these Jews went to Northern Europe, Italy, and Turkey, but most of them went to Muslim countries of Northern and Western Africa. These black Jews would naturally go to African countries most of all because of less persecution, and they could disguise themselves easily among blacks. Okay, you don't go where you can't hide. Exactly, like when we bring up the history about Christ when he went to Egypt, when his parents took him to Egypt, you don't go to Egypt and you're looking pale, okay, and you're looking like an Edomite, or you're looking like a Caucasian. You won't mix well. The politicity there is black, so how are you gonna blend in? It would be easy to find you. Just look for the person that stands out, right? But let's continue with the quote. R.H.M. Elwes gives a graphic description of the Portuguese Jew Baruch Spinoza. Middle-sized, good features, skin somewhat black, meaning he has a dark complexion, dark hue, a brownish hue, black curly hair, long eyebrows of the same color, so that one might know by his looks that he was a descendant from the Portuguese Jews. And we just read earlier by another author that the Portuguese Jews were swarthy. They were dark-skinned. Okay? So this is even adding more validity to that proof. All right. Now we're going to get into the writings of the rabbis, right? So this is from a book, The Image of the Black in Jewish Culture, A History of the Other by Abraham Malamed, page 34. It says, the polemic writings repeat the same argument since the authors copy from one another. Sefer Yosef HaMeknah, Joseph the Zealous, written by Joseph bar Nathan of Fizel in northern France in the middle of the 13th century, contains the following dispute between an apostate Jew and the author's father, Rabbi Nathan. I made you contemptible and base before all people, Malachi 2:9, said a certain apostate to Rabbi Nathan. You are uglier than any people on earth, and our people are very handsome. He replied, those big plums that grow from the seed, what blossom do they have? He said to him, white. And what color is the apple blossom? He said, red. He answered, that is what we are, from a pure white seed, meaning, because white denotes purity, not talking about skin color, and our faces are dark, meaning that their faces are black. While you are Edomites, a red race. Why? Because the blood shows forth through their skin. He's talking about the Caucasians, conceived from a menstruous woman, so that you are yellow and red, meaning blonde hair and your skin's red. Why so? Because we are in exile, as it said in the Song of Songs. Look not upon me, because I am black. He even quoted the scripture, because that scripture, Songs of Songs, is talking about that woman that he's referring to. Because a lot of people think that's a physical woman that he married, or that's his, or the Queen of Sheba he talks to. No, that woman is a parable talking about Israel, because you go to Jeremiah 6:2 and it tells you that Israel is that woman. Okay? Israel is the woman he's referring to, and he's talking about the politicity of all the people. He said Israel is black, basically, because the sun have looked upon me. Because we know the sun reacts to our melanin and makes it darker. Okay, that's why Caucasians will try to go out in the sun and get tans because the little bit of melanin they have in their body, they know they can make it brown or more dark by letting it be have a reaction with the sunlight. It says, I am black because the sun have looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard have I not kept. But when I kept my own vineyard, I was most beautiful, as it is written. And thy renown went forth among the heathen for thy beauty. So he was, they try to call them, they was trying to call the Jews ugly, but he's like, no, no, you're the ugly one. And he quoted scriptures and let you know that being black is comeliness, is beautiful. All right. So let's keep going. All right. Within the medieval art, you also see a display of Jews being black. And I just actually purchased the book, The Image of the Black in Western Art. Very good series, very expensive. I don't know why, who they were trying to target with making the book $100 per volume. And I think it's like 6 or 7 volumes. A real good book, and it's pertinent for our history and learning. Lord's will, I'm able to get majority of the sets, if not all. But anyway, within these books, you see the black iconographs of Byzantine kings, Moorish polity, Jew polity, Jews of high status, and stuff of that nature, which was demonstrated that back then we understood that these people were dark skinned. Now, a lot of that was whitewashed, but a lot of the stuff that survived over the ages we can use and show to educate our people, our pedigree, and who we come from. But anyway, at any rate, let's get to the quote. This is Marks of Distinctions, Christian Perceptions of Jews in the High Middle Ages by Irvin M. Resnick. And it reads, regardless of whether only Jewish men or both men and women were understood to be dark complexion in medieval Christian perception, it remains to determine why a dark skin color should be assigned to Jews at all. Now, that's him throwing it in there. The reason why it's assigned to them is because why? They were a dark-skinned people. It's simple. You don't have to be a theologist or a master psychology to understand this. But they got to try to make reasoning with it because they want to make it seem as if those people in our land now are the real Jews, which they are not. They are imposters. But anyway, let's read on. For theologians, the link between dark or black skin and the blackness of sin seem assured. Medieval scholastic natural philosophers, however, sought causes rooted in nature, meaning this is how they look naturally. An investigation into the causes could be divided according to the medical theory of the natural, non-natural, and contranatural influences on the body. For our purpose, however, it will be simpler to divide our discussion into two: external and internal influence upon skin color. So this is how they depicted it. Why? Because this is how they looked. All right, more on artwork. This is from Jews Depicted Dark. Well, this is not the book name. That's my title I say the image under, but it's Medieval Identity Machines by Jeffrey Jerome Cohen, and it tells you about the Jews being depicted as dark skinned in medieval art. Notes to chapter 6, this is page 277. Medieval peasant on the darkening of peasant skin. In general, however, Saracens and Jews were the groups most susceptible to representation as swarthy. Swarthy means dark. That's what you get the word steward from. Okay, Ethiopian or black skin, making such darkness a signifier of race more than class, showing you that this race of people are black. And the Saracens will represent Moors and Jews in French literature and French iconographs. Okay, and it says, for example, a 13th century manuscript illustration that depicts Jews as menacing black figures with features elsewhere used to represent Ethiopians or Saracens. See Jean Devesi, The Image of Black in Western Art, Volume 2. I believe that's Book 1 or Chapter 1, and I guess page 80 and plate 35. All right, so you can see within medieval times they showed and displayed the truth of our forefathers being dark-skinned. Okay. Now, next slide. This is from the Mishnah, the Negayim chapter 2:1. It says by Rabbi Ishmael, it says, the children of Israel, I am their atonement. Lo, they are like boxwood, not dark, meaning not too black, and not white. And they're definitely not looking like the Jewish people you see today. Okay? The so-called Jewish people you see today. They don't look like them. All right? At all. Okay, but intermediate mean boxwood is what you can get boxwood floors. They can be light brown or they can be dark brown. That's how he's describing the Jews of his day. And the Mishnah was written what, first, second, third century, around that area. Rabbi Akiva said the artists have colors which they have paint black, white, and intermediate figures. One brings an intermediate color and encompasses it, the process on the other perimeter, and it will then appear as one whose skin is intermediate, meaning brown, like boxwood. Rabbi Judah says the appearance of colors of plagues are meant to produce linear decisions, but not to produce rigorous one. Let a German be examined in accord with his skin for a linear decision. Be judged linearly by the standard of color of his own skin, and an Ethiopian linearly by the intermediate color. And sages say both this is one and that one should be judged as the standard color of the intermediate shade, which is brown. Boxwood, okay? It can go from a dark brown to a light brown. That's how the Jews looked according to this record from the Mishnah, the Negim, chapter 2 and 1. All right, some more writings from the Rabbi the Midrash. It says on the Songs of Songs 1:5, it says, "I am very dark but comely, O you daughters of Jerusalem." And now this is talking about Israel as being this woman that's saying, "I am very dark but comely." That's what Solomon was writing, like he was writing to a woman, but he was really writing about Israel. Again, because Job 11 verse 6 says, "What I say to you, they are double. The words of wisdom, they are double. They have double than what it said. It has a double meaning. It's parables." But it says, "I am very dark but comely, O daughters of Jerusalem, like the kents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. I am very dark but comely, O daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon." Psalm 1:5. And here's the explanation of what they wrote in the Midrash. It said, "I am dark in my deeds, but comely in deeds of my forbearers. I am very dark, but comely," said the community of Israel. See, it's telling you this is referring to the polity of Israel. "I am dark in my view, but comely before my Creator. For it is written, are you not as the children of Ethiopians?" Even precept Amos 9:7. "Are ye not as the children of Ethiopians to me, O children of Israel, say the Lord?" And the children of Ethiopia, the Cushites, and the word Cush means black. "Are you not likened to them? Are you not dark skinned like them?" Okay? "As the children of Ethiopians in your sight, but to me, O children of Israel, says the Lord." Another interpretation of the verse, "I am very dark in Egypt, but comely in Egypt." So they understood that they were a dark people, that the hue in their skin were ranging from brown and light brown complexions. Okay? Bottom line is that the Israelites are black. The Israelites of antiquity were a black people. Rabbi Eleazar, he especially, this is his quote from his Pirkei de Rabbi Eleazar, page 172. It says, "He especially blessed Shem and his sons, making them dark but comely." So the Shemites and the people that come from Shem are black people. And who comes from Shem? The Jews. And this first, second century AD source. All right, so we're doing this scholastically. We're showing you that we can prove through the records that our people were a dark-skinned people, a dark-hued people. Okay? Origins. This is from the history of Cornelius Tacitus, Arthur Murphy, page 490, and this was compiled in 1805 of the history of Tacitus. It says, he deduces the origin of the Jews from 5 different nations, namely the Cretans, the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Assyrians, and the Solomons, mentioned by Homer. These various opinions are reported with an air of indecision that leads the reader to choose for himself. The Jews, it is true, were beheld by the Romans with contempt and detestation. But the reason why I brought this up is because Tacitus thought that these people could either come from the Egyptians or Ethiopians, and of course the Assyrians and Solomons and Cretans. But why would he put them into dark nations? If they weren't a dark people, why would he associate these people in their antiquity, with those dark nations, known nations for being dark? Because Ethiopian comes from Athos, meaning burnt face. And we know about the history of the Egyptians. Kemet means black land. Okay, we know that. So he associated our forefathers, the Jews, with these other black nations, saying, "Oh, they have to derive from one of them." So what does that tell you about how he saw the Jews and what they looked like? Okay, let's keep going. Again, the Jews. It's Samuel Ibn Negrela was was a Nagid, meaning prince, appointed as the head of the Moorish armies. His surname Negrella denotes little black ones. That was his family name, which were Jews. Okay? So he descended from a family line called Negrellas, meaning the little black ones. Okay? And he lived in the 9th to the 10th century, the medieval times, during the Moorish rule of Spain. Okay? And he was a black man. You could tell by his name. All right, and then you got to the right here, we got the Crusades. Okay, the so-called Christians going against the Moors. And if you didn't understand this, we fought in their armies. The Jews fought in the Moorish armies. That's why I brought him up as well, because he was appointed as the head of the Moorish armies, and he was a Jew. Now, when you look to your right and you examine the image, if you look on the shield, you see that star, that Makan Dawid. Now, we know, I don't agree with that being in the Bible, but we know that our people associated themselves with that symbol. You know, whether you dislike it or not, that was a sign or symbol that we had went to because of the Kabbalah and mysticisms and whatnot. But at any rate, this is a picture depicting the Moors and the Jews fighting against the Christians of Spain. All right, so let's keep going. All right, so the Dark Ages. This is from a book, Nature Knows No Color Line, by J.A. Rogers, and it says Nazis and the Negro. The Nazis removed Saint Maurice, Negro leading Catholic saints of Germany, from coats of arms. Lips J.E. The Savage Strikes Back, page 25, 1937. Says a black man's head, even in a coat of arms such as that of Coburg, was replaced by the government with a sword and sickle. That's one thing you don't understand. A lot of our imagery was whitewashed and destroyed through our iconoclasm from the Middle Ages. Some of it survived, but a lot of it was destroyed and mantled, and basically they made themselves look like us because they hate the fact that we ruled during that time. A lot of you people that are probably watching this don't know that we ruled majority of the medieval period. Okay, we ruled for around 1,000 years. We had different appellatives and names. Like some of us went by the titles or appellative of Moor. Some of us still kept our Jewish identity. Some of us just called ourselves Christians, Franks. You know, all these different things during that time. And then Esau crept in, had wars, had the Renaissance period, and was able to take over. And now that's how we got where we are now. Okay, but this is what this quote is going into. It says, Professor Lips says, long before Europe set forth his emissaries in history to discover and capture the colored world. Why? Because during that time, the colored world, we ruled Europe, Russia, all that. Okay, that world had pent the white man in his own land. The age of discovery was, after all, but the bursting of the chains which the colored world had put around the white. Okay, we ruled them, and we put under Septimius Severus, okay, 191 AD, he took down the Romans, and from that point we ruled them and dominated them. They became the Vandals, and we put them in the caves of the Caucasus and Khazaria. They had to go to these places and these remote places and live. We chased them and got rid of them, and they popped back up through different epochs of time. As like I said earlier, we had Edomite kings in the Byzantine area. They came during the medieval period and did the Renaissance period, and they regained control. They got rid of the Spanish stronghold of Granada, the Moorish stronghold of Granada in 1492, as we all know. They came over here and conquered our people over here. They got rid of the Jews, and they set themselves back in power again completely in 1492. But it was stages of them warring with us, crusades, so on and so forth. I will be making a video about how a lot of the Jewish rabbis and other sources called the people that were calling themselves Christians in those times the Edomites, okay? The Edomites, which are the so-called Caucasian man today. But nonetheless, this quote right here lets you know that they understand that Europe was being ruled and dominated by people of color. And who are those people of colors? Moors and Jews, okay, which are all Israelite descent. They're all of Israelite descent. All right, so moving on. Now, I already did a video, Israelites of Africa, Timbuktu. You can go check that out if you want. And I actually went over Ismail Hadara, and brought out the information on them again. But here he is again because this brother right here solidifies the point even more and amplifies the point. Um, Basically, I'm going to read it. It says, a Timbuktu resident that recently discovered through his family's record that he was a Sephardic Judean of the Sephardic Judean descent from the Albana family. Archives of the ancient Jews of Mali are located at the Kati Andalusi Library. Okay, he is living proof of our legacy, living proof of our pedigree, that we go back to these ancient Judean people, these ancient Israelites. And he has the records to prove it. And that's him right there. You don't see a white Caucasian man, okay? You don't see nobody looking like that. Or looking like Rob Snyder or something like that. Okay? You don't see nobody looking like Ethan Hawke. You see a brother of color, man. This is how the Jews look. This is someone that comes directly from that line. All right? Moving on. All right, you have La Bagola, Emmanuel La Bagola. In the early 1900s, he came over here to the Americas claiming that what? He was a Jew. He just lived in Africa. Okay? And this is actually from a newspaper article. I didn't put the whole thing up. I wanted to go into depth. I just wanted to give y'all a teaser of it because I actually want to make a video surrounding that newspaper article and what his presentations were about. But he understood that he was a Jew. He was not confused like many of our people are today. He understood it. Okay? Emmanuel Laboga, and that's from an article in 1927. You can see the film or whatever that they had promoting him called the African Savage. But he understood that his lineage and his background was of the Jews, of Israelite history. So with that, I'm going to conclude. The Israelites are in antiquity, the Israelites of antiquity, the Jews of antiquity were black, okay? They're not those Edomites or those Caucasians in the land of Israel call themselves Israeli today, looking like Rob Snyder and all them other people with them long locks on their sides, okay? Those are not them. Those are imposters. They come from the Khazarian sect, okay? They're not even Ashkenazi. They're not the real Ashkenazi Jews, okay? They came and assumed those positions after they conquered the people of those areas and regions because we owned Europe. We ruled Europe for 1,000 years. And they came in and usurped authority, okay, posing as Christians, Anglo-Saxons, and Jews. And they're none of those. They're not the Christians. They're not the Anglo-Saxons. They're not the Jews. With that, I'm going to say shalom. I pray that you brothers learn something from this and that you're able to grow from this and educate yourselves, man. There's knowledge and power within wisdom, brothers. So with that, I say shalom.